Call this meeting to order at 6:01. Planning meeting for Monday, May 13th, 2013. So if Commissioner Dever will lead us in the flag salute.
Put your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Sure, thank you. Commissioner Camerata? Here. Commissioner Dever?
Here.
Commissioner Graff? Here. Commissioner Santos? Here. Commissioner Steinbach?
Here.
Vice Chair Mattingly? And Chair Stevens. We're all here.
Okay. Before we get started, I just want to remind you we've been asked to be sure to speak into our microphones. I guess they're not picking us up very clear on the recordings. And first off, I understand we have our new city manager, just went blank there. If you'd like to come up and say a few words. Andrew, and I'm going to butcher your name, Villalpando?
That's close enough. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Stevens, members of the Planning Commission. Just wanted to come out today. I was telling Brianna that it's a priority for me to not just meet all of our city staff and our departments, but to make sure I make myself available to all of our commissioners. I understand, that just in my brief time here, I've gotten a really good idea of how close this community is, and it's volunteers and commissioners like you that make it happen and make these small little organizations run. And I have nothing but positive things to say, not just about the staff, but everyone that I've encountered. It's been a very warm welcome. Even today, we had a ribbon cutting here for our salon that just opened up. And just seeing the outpouring of community has just been overwhelming. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm sure I'll be working shoulder to shoulder with all of you at our upcoming events and all of the fun things that we'll do in the city. But I am the new city manager here, and I just want you to know open door policy has always been. Please feel free to always drop by. I'm here as a resource, and we have great staff. And Brianna's team leads the charge here. The Planning Commission is, as you know, a very important resource to this organization, and you all are the building blocks and the stepping stones for what this community ends up being. So thank you very much for your service, and here to be a resource whenever you need me. So thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll go to oral communications. Persons wishing to address the Planning Commission on subjects other than those scheduled are requested to do so at this time. Please provide your name and address for the record. In order to conduct a timely meeting, a 3-minute time limit per person has been established. Government Code Section 54954.2 prohibits the Planning Commission from discussing or taking actions on a specific item unless it appears on the posted agenda. Madam Clerk, do you have any speakers?
Yes, Commissioner.
Good evening, Chair Stevens and members of the Planning Commission. George Kivett, longtime Lomita resident and broker business person in town here. Just like our city manager, I was over at the ribbon cutting. We had grand opening, and it was a real nice event. And to tell you the truth, I was the architect of the deal on that one. It was a tough one in the downtown zone. It wasn't ADA approved originally, no HVAC, but we were able to negotiate a real good deal between the landlord and the tenant, and the tenants are going to do real well. I have no doubt. And it's going to be a long-term business that's going to attract a lot of people. I know a lot of people, even friends, personal friends that have gone to the salon to use their services, and they're real happy with the service they're getting there. Tomorrow, I know is with the South Bay Association of Realtors, which I'm a member of for the last 44 years, we're having our Realtors breakfast, the mayor's breakfast. And tomorrow, City of Lomita will be represented at the mayor's breakfast. We kind of rotated through with the different mayors through the South Bay, and tomorrow Mayor Uphoff will be there. I believe Brianna will probably be there, so be sure and bring a lot of cards. There'll be, I'm sure, be a good interchange between the community of realtors and the mayor and staff. And I'm real happy to see our new city manager here. I've run into him at the city, well, of course he's going to be at the city council meetings, but you'll see him here. I saw him at the grand opening. And, a couple of things I've noticed. He seems like an extremely responsible individual. And also, I know he's has in the city that he came from, he was very involved with the CERT program. I know that's important to several of our commissioners here, and also to myself. And well, the thing I noted, he smiles easy. So that's an important thing because it's a tough job. But I think he's going to do a real good job for us. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other speakers? Okay. Okay, then we'll close the oral communications and go to the consent agenda. Anybody have any motion to?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the April 8th, 2024 minutes.
I'll second that.
All right. May I have a roll call, please? All in favor. Oh.
Aye.
Aye.
And I wasn't here.
She's going to abstain.
She's gonna, yeah. Okay, on to public hearings. Item A is discussion and consideration of site plan review number 1050 to allow 2 detached single-family dwellings for use as parsonages and accessory structures for the use as storage at Bay Cities Community Church, Lomita 2043 Lomita Boulevard, in the commercial general CG zone, and finding the project exempt from California Environmental Quality Act, and it'll be presented by Laura McMorran.
Good evening, Chair Stevens. Good evening, Commission. As mentioned, this is a site plan review for 2 residential dwellings and 2 accessory dwellings at Bay Cities Lomita Church at 2043 Lomita Boulevard. According to building permit records, religious buildings were established in the early 1960s. The 72,238 square foot site is located on the north side of Lomita Boulevard. It contains 3 buildings which total 8,602 square feet. 1 two-way driveway provides vehicular access to the surface parking lot in the northern end of the property. The existing assembly use is inconsistent with the commercial land use designation and a non-conforming use with the commercial general zoning district. The Federal Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act of 2000, also called RLUIPA, does not allow state and local governments to implement land use regulations that impose a substantial burden on religious exercise of a religious institution. Housing for pastors, nuns, even caretakers is a frequent component of a religious institution. Like other uses, though, in a commercial zone, the code does allow a site plan review to evaluate the proposed structures in relation to their surroundings, particularly the effects on those structures might have on neighboring uses. And here we can see the large lot on the north side of Lomita Boulevard and the surrounding land uses. To the north is residential. To the east is mix of residential and commercial, and to the west is residential and commercial. This proposed site plan shows the proximate location of the proposed dwellings. They will be in the northern open space yard, set back at least 30 feet from the property line. There are going to be 2 storage accessory structures, and we'll be replacing the existing shipping containers. The single-storied manufactured houses will be attached to a foundation. In reviewing the development standards, the zone allows 35 feet in height. The proposed dwellings are less than 16 feet. The general plan allows a floor area ratio of 1.0. Proposed, all the square footages combined equal 0.18. The setbacks exceed the development standards, and there's no change in the parking supply. Here we have our site photos. So the site plan review findings that are required for approval is that the site plan complies with all the applicable provisions of the zoning code. The site is suitable and will not adversely affect the neighboring properties. These are 2 single-family residential dwellings more than 30 feet from any adjoining property line. And the development design is suitable and functional. The Planning Commission may approve the resolution as recommended, approve the resolution with amended conditions, deny the application, or provide staff with further direction. After the staff report was finalized, neighbors spoke with staff about the project at the public counter. No other inquiries were made. The property owner is in attendance, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Laura. Do we have any questions from the commission? Commissioner Camerata?
None at this time.
Commissioner Santos?
No questions at this time, Madam.
Commissioner Steinbach? No, thank you. Commissioner Dever?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Graff?
No, thank you.
Vice Commissioner Mattingly?
No questions.
And I have nothing at the moment. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
And if you wish to speak?
Madam Chairman and the Planning Commission, great to meet you. My name is Ben Myers. I'm the pastor of Bay Cities Community Church, have been for the last 17 years. Bay Cities Community Church is a missionary church as far as denomination, and that site has been a missionary church for approximately the last 50 to 80 years, depending on which lady who's been in our church the longest would confess to. But generally, about 80 years that site has been used for church purposes. The land is owned by us, the church. It's indented, it's encumbered by our denomination in terms of we can't sell it without their first approval. So the church, as far as the denomination is concerned as well, is intended to be a church property for the long foreseeable future. And we hope ever, until Jesus returns would be a great day to determine that in our perspective. A couple things that I think I wanted to say, and that is that we've appreciated the city's help, and we've done our part to, we think, assist in ways in our Lomita Labor of Love program. We're open to suggestions, and when Laura came out to view our site, she showed us some things that we needed to change, and we are ready to change those and make those improvements, especially the storage container to a more fixed storage application. We've raised the entire amount of the project through our members and through our denomination, so we're ready to go with the project pending your approval. And just one thing, as you know, the high cost of housing is nothing new to any of us who live here, and pastoral housing has been a very difficult one as housing prices and rents have gotten so extremely high. what this project does for us is not only do we have a place for our pastors, but we also then will be able to afford, and our budgeting, allows us more money for ministry versus housing. And we think that's a great advantage to us and to what we can do for the community in the days and years ahead. So we thank you for considering this. We're excited about it. One of the reasons why we picked modular homes is we didn't want to disrupt our neighbors and to do it as little as possible. And we thought that the construction time, once we got the approval and our design for utilities in it, we have about a 3-month burn to actually make installation and finish. So we think that beats a year of trying to do a stick-built home. So it was not only a reasonable cost, but we thought a reasonable lack of impact on our neighbors. So, and if you have any questions, I would sure love to answer them. And thank you for hearing this project.
Thank you for that. Now, does the commissioner have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Steinbach? No. Commissioner Denver? No. Commissioner Graff? No. Commissioner Santos?
No.
Commissioner Camarada?
Nope.
Vice Chair? No. No. Okay, I guess do we have any, I can open the public hearing, but I'm new, can you tell? I'll now open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any written?
Yes, first is Kristen Cardenas.
Hello, thank you for letting me speak today. We just wanted to just address some questions that we had in regards to the impact on the neighbors on Albrecht Street. I did speak to my neighbors today, and one of the concerns were the lights and how they were going to impact the neighbors. The other was where power, sewer, and their utilities were going to be tied into. And also the fence line, who would be in charge of maintaining the fence line going forward. Because in the past, the homeowners on Albrecht Street have absorbed the entire cost of maintaining that fence line. And we feel like if there's residents behind us, that maybe the church should bear some of the responsibility as well. We also, one of the concerns was by having a commercial zone and adding residential, does that change the zoning of the property if it were to be sold? And would that open up the door for a housing complex if the property is sold in the future? And I think those are my questions.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next is Ben Meyer. You already spoke. George Kivett, please.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission again. George Kivett, I'm a local homeowner in the area, a longtime Lomita resident. This year will actually be 40 years in the same home, and I walk by that property almost every day. I know Lomita Boulevard well. One of the major property owners on that block is a multiple-time client of mine. They own probably the largest frontage on that block. But I am very much in favor of this application. I believe strongly in the viability that we need strong churches in our community. I was married in one of the local Lomita churches almost 5 generations, 5 decades back. Well, 4.5 now, but they serve a real purpose, and I think having the residents for the pastor on the site would be a benefit. I think it would aid in overall security for the property after hours. and they're on a huge property. Boy, that's, what is that, an acre and a half or so? And right now, with only 8,000 feet of improvements, it's a very underdeveloped property overall. So having the room on the site is no question about that. Also, the fact that the shipping containers will be removed, that'll be a nice cleanup for that property. And I'm very much in favor of this application, and I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
Next is Terry Claps.
Hello, my name is Terry Claps, and I live on Albrook Street, right behind where the church is. And my biggest concern was, or is, if they change the zoning to residential and the church decides to sell the property, what's to prohibit a developer from building something gigantic in our backyard? And you know, I kind of mentioned it to Krista, and that's my concern. Because when we bought our property, 50 years ago, that was basically a vacant lot in our backyard, which was a bonus for all of us that lived on the street. Our kids would go back there and play, and I mean, it wasn't ours, but it was available. And so, just the thought of a giant structure being built in the backyard is not something I'm in favor of. So I guess that's why I wanted to come and just voice my concerns. I mean, I really don't have an objection to the church building something, but it's just changing the zoning that I think would really bother me. Okay, that's me.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
Niels.
Good evening. So I'm just down the street from Terry. I live on Holbrook as well, where we back up to the church. Love the fact that we have a church that wants to develop a better sense of community, having somebody on site. Concerns for us are lighting. So there are, provisions to have dark sky kind of plans. So right now, the lighting on the facility, it's invasive. It's like we go out in our backyard, we can't see anything but their lights. So downlights would be great. Shrouds around what existing lights would be better. Right now, there's none. The other thing is noise at night. So I don't know what I don't know how late they can do events, but sometimes they go fairly late, and they are allowed. So I'd like to keep that in check and make sure that whoever's going to be in the rectory or whoever's going to reside there, there's some consideration for us as neighbors. And noise is an issue. But again, we're backed up to Lomita Boulevard, so and not a lot of love there, a lot of sirens. We get that. But lighting that, and then to Terry's point, the development of what the actual plan is going to be for development, right? Like, if they decide that they want to bug out and sell to a developer, absolutely don't want to see anything two-story, don't want to see high density, don't want to see apartments, don't want to see any of that. We're a community and we'd like to keep it that way, residential. Love it. And I'm a newcomer here we came in from Redondo, bought a house that was originally with the same family from 1959 until about 3 years ago. Absolutely love it. My family loves it. So we'd like to see it kind of retain that community residential feel. So that's what I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
That's all I have as far as cards. If anyone else would like to speak, this would be the time. And I don't think there's anybody on the Zoom who wants to comment.
if anybody has any comments. Okay. Oh. Go ahead.
The next time you do remodel, make those chairs just a little higher. It'd be we'll bring her. No, thank you. I mean, from the church's standpoint, we want to be good neighbors. And if there's anything with that fence, just to let you know, we have 2 elders here are with you. We'll do anything. I mean, we want to be good neighbors. So if there's an issue with the fence that we're not responding to, that's our fault. Please let us know what we can do. And again, that piece of property is encumbered by our denomination. They will not allow. I mean, if we got a crazy idea, which my friend Larry never gets crazy ideas, good ones, but never crazy ones, we can't sell the property. I mean, the denomination wouldn't let us. They're committed to a church, therefore, ad infinitum. So, I mean, that, just so you know, that is the condition, and we would never sell. So, and our replacements are on board, as Larry and I are aging a bit, me particularly. So I just want you to know that that's a commitment, and it's written into our bylaws, and it's part of it's recorded as part of the deed. So just to put anybody's concerns at rest, that we are very committed to being good citizens, and we'll do our very best. And we'd love to talk to any of you, but have concerns just as a church and as our church leadership. So thank you.
Thank you. So if nobody else has anything they want to say on it, we'll close the open the public hearings and bring it back to the commission. Before I do that, Laura, do you want to address any of those issues?
So I'm actually real quick going to address the zoning. Very good question. So I can clarify, regardless of what's in the deed, as a fallback, you can, to help you understand the protections that you all have as neighbors right now. So the application that is before the Planning Commission tonight is not a zoning text amendment or a zoning map change. It does not change the zoning. It is only a site plan review to permit the 2 storage structures and the 2 residential structures, and it's tied to that site plan where they have them in that middle of the site. So, they couldn't even put the 2 back, on the north side of the property. So that being said, they are proposing 1 story that they're bound to that unless they come back to Planning Commission for a change. But buildings on Lomita Boulevard, such as this one, we do have a development standard that allows for up to 30 feet in height, but this one happens to not be up to 30. A lot of them don't happen to not be up to 30 feet in height, but who's to say with development and the state housing laws that someone might come in. Now, right now in our zoning ordinance, residential is not allowed. Residential zoning districts are not allowed on PCH. I'm sorry, Lomita Boulevard. Yes, thank you, sorry. But goes for both, on this portion of Lomita Boulevard as well as PCH, those corridors. So the city is currently undergoing, I want to let you all know, the general plan update. The general plan for the city hasn't been updated in, I guess we're at 26 years now. It was 98, and so the city council embarked upon an update to the different elements, which include land use, and there's a future land use map. If you go on the city's website under planning and under the general plan, we have a whole website dedicated to it, and the process started a little bit over a year ago. I'm sure Mr. Kivett would love to talk to you afterwards because he was actually on the GPAC, the General Plan Advisory Committee, which was kind of the community. We had several public workshops last summer, had about 150 people in attendance across the 3 and an online survey. So we've done that part of the public outreach, but it's not over. We still have, right now, the consultants. We're drafting the actual documents. And so it does include higher densities on Pacific Coast Highway and the potential allowance for mixed use, commercial, residential. So we want your voices in that document as well. Everyone needs to be represented. And so there is going to be another public workshop this summer with the kind of proposal. Because before there was no work done. It was just, what do you have to say, Lomita? Like, what would you like to see? And then they got to work. So that also being said, anytime there is a rezoning, so say the general plan is adopted in that manner, which would include a rezoning, you all are obligated as property owners to be noticed. So, we'll put the sign on the property, we put the posting in the newspaper, as well as posted at City Hall and online, but more importantly, a mailer. Any property owner will receive a mailer. If it's a renter, they won't receive it, but wherever the property owner's address is registered to by the county assessor. And so if you have any more questions, also you can email myself or Laura at on the city's website, and we can talk about that in more detail, but we do have all the general plan information online. So I would encourage you to share your voices in that way. We're always taking comments on it. Even just email me tomorrow if you'd like.
Thank you, Brianna.
And regarding the other questions that were asked, utilities, they can't run through, they have to connect to the right-of-way unless there's an existing easement. So that will be determined when they complete their construction design. Fence maintenance, there is a state law regarding shared responsibilities, and please email me and I can send that to you. Lighting trespass, there's two different ways to look at it. One is if it's in the sky, and one of if it's bleeding onto another property. And then last but not least, we do have noise regulations, and if things are going past certain hours, our code enforcement division can, address those issues.
Thank you, Laura. And now I'll bring it back to questions from the commission. Commissioner Camarado, do you have anything?
I have no questions, but I will make the comment that Laura and just made, is that most of the concerns are already addressed in the planning resolution and the planning condition document that'll be brought forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Santos?
No problem.
Okay. Commissioner Steinbach?
Yes, question for staff. Who does code enforcement on manufactured homes? I'm going to keep it simple on that one.
Are you thinking because of the mobile home park? Okay, yeah, so this is not considered, even though it's a manufactured home and not a stick-built home, this would still be going through LA County Building and Safety. It's going to be attached to a foundation. We don't allow mobile home parks or mobile homes except in mobile home parks.
Right, okay, thank you for that clarification. What's that?
Which they may tag onto that. The state is required to monitor and manage the state.
That's what I wanted to make
Yeah,
sure that
okay.
it wasn't the state on this one, but it's on a foundation. So.
Right.
Commissioner Denver? Nothing, thank you. Commissioner Graf?
Yes, just one question for Laura. Excuse me. Planning condition 10 talks about the exterior lighting that was brought up by the neighbors. Does that condition sufficiently cover their concerns?
Yes, because we're discussing both types of lighting. So lighting that might trespass, that may leave cast something that's bright onto a neighboring property, as well as something that illuminates the sky. Sometimes they are two different things. You could have something bright illuminating the sky, but not trespassing onto someone else's property. So, we're going to get into when we get their electrical plans, we'll see what kind of fixtures they're looking at.
Yeah, I guess the question was, this particular condition, I think from what was said, this condition will cover the concerns from the residents.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
how it is. That's how it was written, and I think council, yeah. We
Just
agree.
for the neighbors'
Mike,
knowledge.
that's what I said earlier, that their concerns are covered in these conditions.
Yeah, just for the neighbors, if you're not familiar with the process, so when Planning Commission makes a decision tonight, they would be adopting a resolution with these requirements, and the property is bound by those in perpetuity unless it ever returns to this venue. And so at that point, it becomes a code enforcement, so you can always contact code enforcement if you think they're in violation of any of these conditions, which, just to read reiterate for you all is about the containers being removed and the lighting to not trespass onto neighboring properties and have an adverse effect on neighboring property.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
So it is public record. And so I want to make sure that they're aware that they can get copies of these or one and distribute them or whatever, that everybody can see what the conditions are so there's no confusion.
Thank you. Vice Chair Mattingly, do you have anything?
You know, I had a couple questions, but Brianna and Laura definitely answered them, so no further questions.
Thank you. I just have one clarification from staff. As I'm looking at these photos, and no, it's not about parking. Even though I tweaking that one. These photos that you gave us in our packet are showing the two structures, the two garages, and then they're showing 3 storage containers. I'm going to be sure that the storage containers are going, all 3 of them?
Yes, the landscaping plans were submitted earlier than the site plans got revised. And the resolution is very specific as to, first of all, shipping containers must be removed prior to finalization and only authorizing accessory storage structures. So thank you for checking.
I saw that in the conditions, but then when I saw the photos, and I just wanted to make clear that that was going out, and I'll let the parking go for this time. Thank you. If there's no further discussion from the commission, can I get a motion and a second to approve or recommend?
I'll move that we approve. That we approve site plan review number 1050 as presented by staff.
And you second it? Sure. No, it's all right. Oh, Mike. Okay, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item B, 4B, public hearing. Discussion and consideration of conditional use permit number 328 for one building up to 20 feet in height for 2 accessory dwelling units at 26038 Oak Street in the RVD 25 residential variable density 2500 zone, and finding the project exempt from California Environmental Quality Act. And this will be presented by Laura McCarran.
Good evening again, commissioners. So tonight's...
Excuse me, can you have your conversation outside? Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. So if this application seems a little vaguely familiar, it is because it's the manifestation of a zone text amendment. The subject property contains a 6-unit multifamily property built in the 1950s. It is south of PCH, and they applied for a height variation permit, which was approved administratively on April 26th. No public comments were received regarding the height variation permit. So this project is consistent with both the general plan land use and zoning designations. The ZTA that was passed last month by City Council allowed residential properties abutting commercial zones and key lots to add 4 feet of height and a second story with a conditional use permits. Some of the benefits included smaller building footprint, more pervious surface area, and lower building costs. Here we have a site plan And they have provided more than the required 450 square feet of open space. It's 225 per unit. There will be 5-foot rear and side yard setbacks. The rear yard setback is akin to a side yard setback because, we determined that this rear property line is abutting the neighboring property's side property line. Here are the proposed floor plans. One of the benefits of the custom ordinance was that there's going to be ADA accessibility built into the bones of the ground floor unit. So again, by right, they could have 16 feet, and the request is for 20 feet. And you'll see how the elevations are. There's 2 stories. These are the pertinent development standards, and they are in compliance with all of them. So this is the front of the property, and you can see, you can't really see the structure from the street. The silhouette is still up from their height variation permit, and it's far back in the rear yard. To the north is the 9-unit track map at 26016 Oak Street, and their side yard is abutting this side yard. So the required findings for approval for a conditional use permit is the use is allowed in the district, and it is consistent with the general plan. The site and building designs are compatible with current and future land uses. This is residential, has been residential, and will be residential for the foreseeable future. Persons or property will not be endangered or adversely affected or experience material detrimental effects by this additional 4 feet. The site is adequate to accommodate the project. There is the space, and even more open space is created by allowing it to go up. And the site is served by streets that can accommodate the traffic for 2 people. Oak Street has sidewalks and about a 38-foot curb to curb. It's a 2-lane road that connects with PCH. So the specific conditions of approval is to remove the unpermitted attached storage structure from the rear yard because that's occupying open space, and we need to have landscape and irrigation plans for the front and rear yards. Planning Commission has, the following options, which is to approve the resolution as recommended, approve the resolution with amended conditions, deny the application, or provide staff with further direction. The applicant is here as well as the property owner, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Laura. Let me bring it, see if the commissioners have, or if the applicant would like to speak first. Oh, questions, sorry. Hold on one second. Commissioner Camerata, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time.
Commissioner Santos?
Not at this time, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Steinbach?
Yes, for staff. So this boils down to reduced side yards.
Could you repeat that?
This boils down to reduced yards. Am I correct?
Reduced rear yard setback, but more open space on a lot. It's a trade-off.
And the 20-foot in 5 foot away from a property line does not exceed current standards? In other words,
it is allowed in the zone, based on the zone text amendment, that we can, the commission can use its discretionary authority to authorize the 5-foot rear yard setback for a 20-foot high ADU structure.
Yeah, I get I'm sorry, I should have been clear. I get the discretionary part of it on our behalf, but normally if they were going to put a 20-foot high structure in that yard, and we weren't talking about open space, when does it become a reduced, or when does it have to increase the setback versus height? Where's that ratio come in? Do you know? Offhand? Sorry.
So it's a little situational because we're moving needles all the time in response to the state. So if it was a planned residential development, it would be 27 feet at 15 feet for a rear yard setback. For an accessory structure, just a normal one in our code, 16 feet at 3 feet rear yard setback. For an ADU, 16 feet for a 4-foot rear yard setback. And so then here is the Lomita, key lot, commercial lot abutting situation, which is 5 feet for a 20-foot high. And so, there's more breathing room on part of the lot for the adjacent neighbors. And so it's a shift.
Thank you. I just wanted that to be articulated, that it isn't a hard and fast deal in these situations now because of the ADUs and the new constraints that we're under, that we're going to see this more often. We're not the fact that it's 5 foot on a 20-foot height, but that we have to be creative in how we meet these requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Denver? Oh, no. Commissioner Graf?
Yes, I'm trying to recall, there's no changes to this from when we saw it before.
Well, we gave an illustration of it with the zone text amendment, but we did not,
Yeah.
So it's the same concept because it was the applicant's.
Right.
The applicant had proposed the zone text amendment, and we had worked with them to find the situations that we could kind of thread that needle where under X and Y condition, key lot, commercial abutting property, we would find it suitable so it wasn't be citywide.
Right, so what was done before was to revise the code to make situations such as this possible via cup.
Exactly.
Okay. So if they wouldn't need a CUP if it were not greater than 16 foot high.
Correct.
So this meets the ADU requirements with the exception of the height, 4 foot in height, of which we have put into place that we can approve it via a cup.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Mattingly? No questions. Okay, I just have one. Bob actually took one of my questions, which was great. That's okay. So the reason for going up 4 additional feet is because it's a 2-story rather than a 1-story side by side?
Yes. So the footprint would otherwise be up to 1,600 square feet, right? 2 side-by-sides. And
at a height of
now it's a 800 square foot footprint on the ground. The 1,600 feet is just like stacked like a cake, I guess is the best way to think about it.
Okay, and it increases yard space, but not parking space.
Parking is off the table. The state has said housing before parking, and the city is
I get it.
pushing landscaping before.
Yeah,
parking.
I mean, my concern is I know that a lot of us have driven down Oak Street, and now with the new complex going in and this going in, and pretty soon we're going to just have to block that street off altogether because you're not going to be able to drive on it. But that's personal opinion.
That's state law.
I know it, but I have to say it, just because I do. Okay, so if the commissioners have no more questions for staff, I will open it up to the applicant. Like to speak?
Madam Chairman, and good evening, Commissioners. My name is Rand Relatoris, the architect for this project. And first of all, I want to thank Laura McMorran for helping us over the last many, many months. As you can see, this is a little jewelry box design project. And there's so many advantages of going 2 stories. When we built the silhouette, the tenants in the existing 6 units were really relieved that we were going to leave a lot of open space. We're going to demolish that unpermitted storage space that's going to make it look much larger. And Laura, on those photographs, pointed out the open space on the southeast corner side of it, but there's also open space on the west side of that new structure. And it's going to be great. After laying out the silhouette, we are still 4 feet shorter than the new 9-unit development next door. To the neighboring house residents to the east, our structure is actually adjacent to their rear yard. So it's not adjacent to any home, any structure. So plotting it in that corner was ideal. If we go 2 units, 1 story, that whole backyard is taken. In fact, we may have to attach it to the existing structure and possibly displace the tenant in the rear. We didn't want to do that. I think this is a great development. I think it's still, as the photo shows, you can't see it from Oak Street. And it's still, the silhouette, the skyline is still well below existing structures there. So I think there's a lot of win-win. I get it with the ADU parking. It's, who knows how long ADUs will last here when all the cars are parked in the street, but today, this is where we're at. So I'm willing to answer any questions if you have any other concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have questions for him? Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have any written communication? Or
No written communication, but we do have speakers here. I don't know about on the call, probably not. But Joe Squillarte? Joe? Is there a Joe here who wants to speak on this? Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll open the public hearing now.
Hello, my name is Joe, and I'm here about the property on Oak Street. It's such an eyesore to have a 2-story building virtually in my backyard, and I live on 262nd Street. It's just, and those 9 units that are next door, they're only like 5 feet away from this building that he wants to put up there. But the worst part is the parking. They talked about open space and everything like that. If you go over there and look at it, the only open space is where everybody parks in the front of the building on Oak Street. And there's only 6 garages for 6 units now, which is the way it was supposed to be. And as soon as you put 2 more families in there with 4 more cars, and then they got to give those other people the spots that they're parked there, of course. Oak Street, there's no parking on it at all. They're all parking on 262nd Street. They're even down to Eshelman now. We have no place to park in front of our homes. And I've been there 33 years, and it's just horrible. The people come on Thursday night and they park their car there on 262nd in front of my house. They don't come back till Tuesday the next week. You know, and you don't know who they are because they live in all those apartments. There's no way to get a hold of them. They block the driveways, they do everything else. So adding, along with the 9 units next door that they're building, there's only 1 or 2 visitor spots. there's going to be more than 2 cars per garage there. They're going to have kids in college and kids in high school. Those are big units. And all those cars are going to go on Oak Street. There's just no room for it anymore. It just takes away your quality of life. The people that live there, and you can't park in front of your own house. This is ridiculous. And that's just adding to it. I'm not saying, more cars are just not going to do it for the neighborhood. So hopefully you don't approve of that, because if you really look at it, there's no open space there. I've talked to the people that live there. They have no choice not to talk about it, but they're taking away their only open space, that backyard. And the ladies in there, oh, where are my grandchildren going to play? Where am I going to put the kids?
Sir.
Where am I going to do this,
Thank you.
Anyway, thank you.
I appreciate your comments.
Next is George Kivett.
Good evening again, Chair Steffens and members of the Planning Commission. I'm very familiar with the property in question. Most of it because I'm the broker that brokered that 9-unit site next door. It's been several years since that property was sold, but I know the property and that street. It's a cul-de-sac street well. I did want to mention, I've visited where that 9 units is going up dozens of times, and I've always parked on the street, and I never once was not able to find a parking space along that stretch. I've never went there after hours or after dark, but every time during the day that I've been to that site, and I've visited that site recently just to observe how the development's coming along, I've always found parking there. I do like that if it's approved, they'll remove that unpermitted storage. That helps to open up the ground, the site there. That's good. I do, personally, I do know the architect that is doing the project. He has helped other clients of mine in the development of 2 homes on Cypress Street, one of them which is probably one of the larger homes in Lomita, and then another what would probably be considered an ADU or grandma's unit in the back. And he does very good quality work. That I can attest to. I've seen his work, I've visited his work, and I know the quality of the work that he does is outstanding. I do like the idea that of going up versus expanding on the ground level, so that it will, as much as possible, allow the most of the site as far as open space, and it won't crowd out the ground level any more than what it might have to accomplish those 2 additional units. And the height that's being asked for is lower than what's being built immediately adjacent on that 9-unit site. So everything in consideration, and also there is no views of significance that would be impacted by the building, in my best opinion. So just taking everything into consideration, I have no beneficial interest in this project that is on the table before you. I do think it's a good idea, and I'd recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam, do we have any other?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And we'll now close the public hearing. So we'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Camerata?
The project that has already been approved, the 9 units I had to recuse myself from because it has a direct financial impact on 2 clients that I have on Oak Street. This apparently does not have a financial impact because it's not directly related to any of my clients. So I don't think I need to recuse myself from this, but I will vote accordingly.
Just for clarification.
Pardon me?
Just for clarification, you've looked into whether there was going to be any financial impact on your clients?
This will not have any financial impact on my clients, correct?
We're good.
Okay.
I'm sorry, are you recusing yourself? No. Oh.
I'm not because it doesn't have any
okay.
financial impact, yes.
Did you have any other comments?
Nope, no other comments this time.
Commissioner Santos? No. Commissioner Steinbach?
Well, I could go on and on, but I won't. I mean, this is what's going to be coming to us a lot. I mean, there's parts of it that I try to look at it, what would I have done 6 months ago? You know, would I have approved it 6 months ago? And I might have. But we're not in a position where we get the luxury to lean on our past feelings about this. I'm looking at the Google Earth picture right now. I mean, there's 20 open parking spaces on Oak. I get it's that moment in time, but these are new. It used to be a Google Earth picture was 2 years old. Now it's every 2 months you're getting a new one. So, and I know they're putting the nine units next door, and they're going to be tall. And I try not to look at it on what's going next door. I mean, if I'm going to look at something next door, it's going to be existing uses. What's already there? Who was there first? This is what is on that street. I mean, Oak Street is multiple units. And if the new particular requirements and regulations allow for this with a certain amount of discretion, then so be it. I think it's an opportunity for the city, and I see in the conditions that were put forth by staff, there's opportunities to increase landscaping and watering and all kinds of things that have been going downhill. So it's actually going to get a better project out of that. I do feel for the neighbors that are concerned about how close it is to the property line and how close it is to them and the view and all of that. You know, we're all of us up here. I know I'm preaching to the choir. We all have houses or wherever we live where you can't park on the streets, and anybody that does park there doesn't live there. I mean, I have a van that shows up and 6 people get out and get in their cars and go to work in the morning. I don't know where that van comes from. And I live in the, you know, in the middle of houses. So, I mean, that's something we just are going to have to deal with. The streets don't belong to the residents that live there. The curb out front of my house does not belong to me. Those parking spaces belong to anybody that parks a car there. So it's not something that we all like, but it's the new world that we live in. I don't know. I hope that people in chambers here tonight, as well as our staff, and I know you do too, are appreciative of what we have to go through right now with these things. Our hands are not completely tied, but I'm looking at all of the mitigating circumstances here, and there's not enough there to get me to say no. That's my comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Dever?
No, nothing.
Commissioner Graff?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what Commissioner Steinbeck just said. Our hands are tied in some regards, and what we on this commission and staff try to do is what's best for the city, being dealt what we are dealt. Unfortunately, I feel sorry for the residents around the area that have a concern about parking, but there is nothing, let's see, proper way of saying this. The state allows it. And the state cannot mandate, or we cannot mandate additional parking like we used to be able to because of the laws that have been passed by the state. And so I look at it as being a best of circumstances that we can provide for the citizens, even though it doesn't help everybody, but we have to go by the laws of the state and our own too. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chairman, nothing else? Okay, I just have one question for staff. The property that backs up to them from 261st Street, I believe it's 2061, 261st Street, that's where the tree lines are back there. Did they have anything to say about?
I received no written comments for the height variation permit, which was mailed to property owners within 300 feet, or phone calls. I received one phone call today from a property owner, none of the adjacent property owners, but one across 261st on the north side, and it wasn't really pertaining to this entitlement. It was to something else she was hoping to get answered. I think that's, our notice sparked a question. So there were no written or phone calls to either notification.
Okay, because I know the properties, because for years and years, I've done business on Oak Street. I mean, so, and I know that little one that goes back, that's going to back up to that. If for some reason those trees were ever have to be removed, what are they looking at? They're looking at someone's windows on a 2-story building. That's my concern. I mean, I wouldn't want to look into somebody's, and it's also whether if those trees were to go down, they would be blocking all their light they have. Those are just my concerns. So I wanted to know if those homeowners had specifically addressed or even bothered to comment.
We haven't heard from them.
Okay.
And I'd like to add just this being the first application of its kind, right? Other cities have been doing applications like this for a while. So obviously, like you spoke to the state mandates, all cities are required to approve certain types of ADUs. And then the zoning text amendment that came before you all, this was an extra ask on top of what the state. So we didn't have to allow it. The city did it in good, with its good reason. And so I just want to make sure you're not misunderstood or misinformed that it's one of those, you have to go through the state. Just got to make sure that you understand that it is discretionary for a reason because it's a request beyond what the state and our code requires. And to that point, like I mentioned, this is the first one to you all. You are able to implement conditions of approval. For example, no windows allowed on that rear facade or something, or it must be frosted glass or something like that. That is the opportunity you have now that no ADU, haven't had the opportunity to do that with any ADU in the, applied to the city before.
Okay, and with that, not having any other questions, I lost my place. Can I get a motion to second and or approve?
Side and rear yard setbacks at 26038 Oak Street, subject to the findings and conditions, and findings that request exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA.
Thank you, Commissioner Santos. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, so
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Camerata abstained.
So that's 6-0?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
6 with 1 abstain.
I'm sorry, yes, 6-0 and 1 abstain. Thank
And
you.
I lost my agenda, I'm sorry. So with that, I got so many things going. So we'll move on to item 4C. Discussion and consideration of determination of similarity application number 2024-01 to consider the use of a laundromat similar to personal services such as dry cleaner and tailoring as identified in Lomita Municipal Code Section 11-1.49.02A in the downtown commercial DC zone filed by Sherry Magnus Butler Mitchell. And this is presented by Erica, but I understand it's to be continued.
Yes, and we'll get there in a moment. So, yes, this applicant is also going to be, or will be submitting a minor conditional use permit application for reduced parking. So for it to be heard concurrently, they're doing a study and will be applying in the coming days. So that will actually be on the July agenda. So if you, in your motion, what would that be? July 8th planning commission meeting. It'd be continued until then.
I'll make a
At request
motion.
of the applicant.
I'll make a motion that we continue item 4C to as requested to our July meeting.
You're asking for June 10th, right?
No, amendment, so they were to submit their parking study and parking application today, but they needed more time.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that'll be continued to June 10th. July 10th, sorry. July, that's the 15th. Okay. Move on to,
Just to clarify, Madam Chair, that's going to be July 8th.
right. Okay, moving along to public hearing 4D, which is a discussion and consideration request for a zone text amendment to amend section 1148, principal uses permitted of Article 48 CR Commercial Retail of Chapter 1 Zoning of Title 9, or is that 11? Planning and
11.
Municipal Code regarding restriction of service space uses on the ground floor of commercial shopping centers over 5,000 square feet, presented by Erica Barbary. No, but I understand this one is also asking for a continuance?
Yes, so this has been on your agenda a couple times now, a few times, because the applicant wants to beef up their case, for lack of a better word. And so we had advised him, we spoke with our city attorneys as well, that in order to properly public notice, because they've requested basically an indefinite continuance, but we need to do our due diligence notice-wise. So we have advised them in written communication, they have responded, that they would need to pay to renotice, the whole gamut of the state-required notices. And we asked for them to provide a letter in writing. We have not received that. I have nothing in my email inbox as of right now, and then also, or alternatively, to be present tonight, and they are not present tonight. So you all actually have the unique option to, you can always approve with conditions, deny, or continue. Now, if it continues, you would need to specify the date. It can't be an indefinite continuance, and they would be required, we'd be required to renotice. You could also opt to deny the application because of the issues here with noticing and on your agenda. So this doesn't happen often, but I have seen it happen before. I'm sure our attorney present could help with
I think this
guidance.
is the third time they've asked for a continuance.
Third time on the agenda, second time they've asked for a continuance, right?
Okay. Commissioners, have any comments or?
I guess my question would be, how long do we want to continue this? Because we went down this road with the proposed storage unit on Lomita Boulevard. So do we have a timeline on how long this has been in the works and how many more months we want to allow continuance?
So we can continue this to a date uncertain and
Right on.
not have this on our agenda until the applicant goes through the process of re-noticing. And so that could be done, you would motion to continue to a date uncertain.
Okay.
Won't be on our agenda again until
So basically a date TBD,
excuse me?
a date TBD,
Yeah,
to be
yes,
determined. Okay. I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor, say.
Aye.
Aye.
Moving right along. Which brings us to 4E, discussion and consideration of general plan amendment 2024-01, zoning amendment, text amendment number 2024-02, and zoning map amendment number 2024-1 for 24925 through 25007 Walnut Street. Do I have to read the APN numbers?
Good evening,
Thank
Chair.
you.
So this item should seem familiar to most of you. This is the reconciliation between what Lomita Manor's use is and its land use and zoning designation. The reason it's back before you tonight was because of a noticing error that was caught before City Council, and what is required is when there's a zone text amendment, obviously notification in the newspaper and the general plan, but when there is a specific plan, the adjacent property owners within a 300-foot radius need to be notified as well. So we have done that for tonight's meeting, and the only change to the resolution is the date. So if I could represent this project, which discusses how right now the land use designation is public open space, and it is proposed to move to high-density residential because this is a multifamily apartment building and not a space that the public can walk on like the Civic Center. And then the specific plan is, the requirements that are specific to Lomita Manor's development and mirroring that for the adjacent fourth property on the Housing Authority's portfolio. Are there any questions I can answer?
I have no questions at this time.
Anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay, because we heard this, we're very familiar with this. So if there's no one in the public, I'll open up for public hearing. If anybody has a question. Okay.
Oh, okay.
One quick comment. Do you have the slides up there?
Yeah.
Is that relevant to?
It's the next item. I think whoever in the back.
She's anxious for the
next
next phase.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have the ability to
So
take
we
it
have
down.
no speakers on this, so I can close the public hearing. And if we have no questions from the commissioners or staff, can I get a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Pass. Okay, I'm moving on to
All
our...
in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. We got so excited. And now on to our sixth and final public hearing. Discussion and consideration of zone texting amendment number 2024-04 and an ordinance amending various sections of Lomita Municipal Code Title 1011, Planning and Zoning, Chapter 1 zoning, to add indoor recreation uses permitted by a conditional use permit or by right within the CR, commercial retail, or CG, commercial general, and the DC, downtown commercial, zoning districts, and to find exemption from the California environmental quality, presented by Brianna Ringe.
So this item comes before you as an economic development effort of the city. So the city is the applicant. And it was originally spurred by a few different businesses that came to us just hoping to locate in our city, but our code wouldn't allow them because our code just didn't ponder these uses. And if a use isn't specified as being allowed or fall under something already allowed, that means it is not allowed, unfortunately. So that's why this is a zoning text amendment, to realize these more modern uses that weren't considered before. Of course, a lot of them really, I have these examples, just articles, what's happened in the post-COVID world, where people are excited to be doing these activities together with people indoors if it's bad weather or cold or too hot. And so I'm just going to run through a few of what these uses are that are part of the zoning text amendment. And it is overall described as indoor recreation, just for this an ordinance. Obviously, we have yoga classes, there's Pilates, Pure Barre, this is a reformer class. They can look really, I can say, to me, it looks really cool. It's a studio that someone might want to go to. It also offers the competitive part of working out, where you're in a cycle class and it has you racing the others on the bikes next to you. That's one of the reasons people love places like this. Also, baby gyms or different kind of indoor playgrounds for kids. I can say this specifically was a use brought to our attention as someone wanting to put in the city. And we do already have a lot of these uses in the city. I'm sure you're familiar with who this is, Still Got It Fitness, just down the street. They're award-winning. They've got not only an open gym, but also classes. So this is also already in the city. It's a different type. It's not a gym or workout class, but it is what I would call, and what I've identified in the staff report, as a course-based indoor recreation. So this is the escape room that we have down the street on Lomita Boulevard. This is just what's on their website as different things you can do. You can see that it's sold out tonight in 2 of the experiences. It's clearly being used. That's something that's not contemplated by every zoning district right now. Indoor mini golf, this is also skyrocketing. And I'll get to combination uses, because a lot of these are often associated with small restaurants or bars that serve food as well, but I'll get to that. This obstacle course, you've heard of Ninja Warrior. There's places opening up where people can go do that. That's grown popularity as well. So, and actually, I didn't realize this girl going over the rail when I put it here, but she's got protective gear. So roller derby has also really skyrocketed in popularity. A different kind of indoor use, recreation, entertainment, I've classified as bay-based. So where you have your own bay, either it's just yourself or, you're on a date, you're with a group of friends, you're with a family for Mother's Day there. Axe throwing is one that specifically came to us, and we said, well, we need to amend the code to allow something like this. Axe throwing. I guess technically, it's more intense than knife throwing. I actually went to one of these businesses. It's in major cities kind of around this America, but Los Angeles doesn't have one. It's a darts bar. So it's kind of like Topgolf, where you have your own bays. You come, I actually was there for a like rehearsal dinner before a wedding, and it's, you know, they've got safety precautions. They have the screens up top where you battle your buddies, and different games. You know, it's not just darts like we all know it at bars. You can order food and drinks, and it's, you know, a kind of a classy establishment is the way they design it. We also have one of these in the city, a commercial business, as well as in the Kaya development. They've got one of these for the residents, a golf simulator. As we know, land around here is, you know, can't just build a golf course anywhere. This is one way that those, what's that? Yes, that's one, yeah, on Narbonne, and the one in the Kaya development for the residents. Yep. So another category, of course, coming up is, you know, you hear AI, you hear self-driving cars, all these different technological advances. Well, one is also an entertainment social business, and that's VR, virtual reality bars, where, you know, you can see the little head things you put on this table, and other people can watch their friends, you know, make a fool of themselves as they play games against each other. I've been to one of these in Atlanta, and it is hilariously fun. But it's Bay-based. You know, you have your group of friends, your family, or by yourself if you'd like, in your own confined, kind of outlined area. Esports. This is something, you know, I've recently learned about. It's always been around as long as video gaming has been around, but there are major sponsorships, there are major tournaments held in arenas. This is something that the newer generation, they, in a way, you know, they call it esports. They consider it a sport where you're playing against each other, just not physically with your bodies, with your fingers on the mouse and the keypad and whatnot. It is very large globally. And so to have, obviously we don't have space for such an arena or something like that, but you know, unless someone consolidates some properties, but to have one of the units be able to be filled by such a use would, of course, create more activity. This is what the different categories I just spoke about are. The draft ordinance proposes to allow these. And gyms and workout studios, those things are already considered in many zoning districts by our code in an extremely restrictive manner. But the other newer uses not contemplated by our current code, in our general commercial areas, you'll see in the staff report where I literally just copy pasted the intent of the zoning districts as they are laid out in our code. And so these uses would fit them where we wrote by right. But some things like axe throwing and darts alleys, we wanted to make sure were CUP because there's a lot of conditions you're going to want to place on those. I looked at examples. Yeah, that's not something we need to put in code, but on a business by business basis, because there are a lot of national codes on things like that. They're current. You know what? I'll double check that. I can look at it real quick if we have public comment or not. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this wasn't proposed to eliminate. Oh, we don't. Yeah, I need to double check. Oh, that's right. Thank you. They go so far back that they're legally non-conforming.
Oh, okay.
So that could remain, you know, it could even be transferred to some other gym if it wants. I know you're aware of this, but that if it were to cease operations for a period of time specified by code, then it couldn't go back to a gym unless a zoning text amendment. And one thing I do want to mention too, we have our general plan coming up, which includes a comprehensive zoning update. So this ordinance is more going to be acting as a Band-Aid because that whole zoning ordinance will come before you all this fall. But this is, like I said, just to get the economic development focus to allow these businesses to come in now. There is no proposed change to any applications being required to come to you if they propose a new building, if they are selling alcohol, and if there's any outdoor elements. Our code says anything with those in these districts has to come before you. You see a lot of alcohol licenses, site plan reviews. Outdoor dining would have to come before you if it's not already there. But also like outdoor elements of a gym, you saw a lot of that in COVID. This ordinance does not change any of that. The general plan. The existing general plan is what is legally to be considered by such an ordinance. But kind of anecdotally, I wanted to add that the upcoming general plan, since we are towards the end of the process, does support such an ordinance as well. This would expand investment opportunities, attract modern uses not contemplated, like I mentioned, and allow Lomita, for example, the darts bar. There's not one in Los Angeles. Well, if we put it's called Flight Club. Just as an example, if you put one in Lomita, it's going to become a regional draw, kind of like Topgolf in El Segundo. There's not another Topgolf in the LA area. So when you do that, they come to businesses next to it. They might want to get food before or after, and then that further expands our visitors, prevents leakage into other cities, of course, which puts more money in the city's coffers, but will also garner return customers to spend their money in Lomita. So I did also want to focus on our general plan, again, the existing one, that to allow in a more wide area gyms and workout studios, it increases the healthy recreational opportunities for residents. The city does have a lower than average park per resident ratio, so this is one opportunity. If there's an indoor business, it's an indoor park, but it's something to be an alternative for people to increase the overall health of the city and limit medical calls eventually. It will likely increase in some ways the safety and mobility of the area because people who are active will be more inclined to walk or bike, and that would free up parking and traffic on the road, and you'd see more activity on the streets, which typically yield a safer environment. Why is this frozen now? Oh, I appreciate that. That was a test. So if you have any questions, this item, should you make a decision, a recommendation to council tonight, it would go before city council at the June 4th meeting.
Thank you, Brianna. And just to let you know, esports is actually a high school sport now. The schools commit, and they have been doing it for about 5 years. It's awesome.
There are esports. I'm a big NASCAR fan, and they have NASCAR leagues, and the winners of the deal make $250,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Expensive.
Yeah. These kids get scholarships to go play video games. Okay, I don't get it. But anyway, back to topic here. Are there any comments from the commissioners? Let's start with Commissioner Steinbach.
So to clarify, you're looking for us to adopt a resolution tonight?
So the staff recommendation is to adopt a resolution, which would be a recommendation of approval to council. Now, this is a city-initiated ordinance. We welcome discussions, amendments, things to take out. The staff report has the full description of everything involved in this, because there's some minor
Yeah. Well, this is extremely proactive from staff. This is outstanding. We talked about this months back about how we can draw more downtown and make it attractive for these uses to come in. So that's a lot of work in a short amount of time. Hats off. I don't have any questions for staff, but I'll move we adopt the resolution.
I have.
They do need to do a public hearing. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's right. Sorry.
I have a question, though.
Okay. Monica, did you have a question before we open the public?
Yeah, I think we ought to charge for parking the bikes, because we have to have bike racks. We can have little things that, where they charge by the minute. So that way we're not being,
Love it.
discriminatory against cars, okay? And also, I know Lomita is a very trendy kind of city because when massage parlors became popular, we had 27. I'm just hoping that if the axe throwing doesn't become too popular with 27 axe throwing businesses, so I hope we can just, get a whole variety of these kind of businesses coming, but it's a good idea. Thank you.
Commissioner
Yeah. Very good, Monica. Did I understand, you said general plan conformance. I know we're being proactive now, and I got the impression from you that the same thing as this is included in the general plan. So I guess if, as you come forward with different things to support the general plan, this would be included in it anyway?
If I'm understanding, are you asking, once the general plan's adopted this fall, if we're going to see more ordinances like this? Is that, or I'm not sure I understand your question. Oh, yeah, Laura understood it.
So you're asking if this ordinance, the zone text amendment, would be consistent with the future general plan as it has been drafted? That's in the works. So what we have up and coming and what is changing in the particularly land use and economic development element would align with this ETA. And the answer is
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I guess if you were to take what is in line with the proposed general plan, this would probably roll out of it too. But we can do it ahead of time. One less thing we have to do when the
I
general
think
plan.
she said it was a Band-Aid. It was a Band-Aid until the new general plan went around. Okay. He wants to see where the charge.
Yeah. Could you just explain that again?
So this is intended on the screen to say freeze up on or off-street parking. Yes.
Okay, I get it. I have an item I'll bring up in a minute after that, okay.
Commissioner Stansford.
Brianna, I think you mentioned there were some inquiries already from businesses. Were they interested in any specific buildings in the city?
It's been over time, speaker, but I don't think on the corridors, I could say, of
Got
course,
it.
but yeah.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
And I don't have anything other than there's a lot of vacant buildings they could move into. So with that, I'll now open the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
George Kivett?
Well, I know on the city council, one of the council members told me, be positive. And I typically am. I like to be positive. But one thing that I would not agree with during this presentation is that the belief that it would decrease vehicle trips and need for parking. If you have more people coming to these events, to these venues, you will have an increased need for more parking. So I think that was an incorrect statement there. But other than that, I love the idea. I was a member of the General Plan Advisory Committee that recently wrapped up its share of the work on the upcoming general plan revision. And it was discussed, and I think there was a consensus that it was an idea that the members of the GPAC liked. I'm very much in favor of allowing entertainment type uses, recreational type uses within all our zones, commercial zones. I know the restrictions in the downtown commercial zone hindered the leasing of property in the downtown area. I know that for a fact. In fact, there was somebody that was approved by your automated system that said they could go into the downtown zone. And I told this individual, I don't think was a correct decision by this automated system. And when he checked further, he found out he couldn't move into the space. But I very much like this idea. I know from my understanding, Brianna is going to be attending ICSC, the International Council of Shopping Centers conference, which is in the next week or so. I am a member of ICSC, and I know this is going to be a major area of interest at the event. I have no doubt about that. And it will be very nice to have major regional draws into our city. There'll be definite advantages to the other surrounding businesses, especially food service type businesses. And I think something like this will overall help put Lomita on the map, especially with a lot of the younger generations, younger than myself, I'm speaking. That's not hard at my age now. That's not hard to find younger people than me. But I think it's a very good idea. I like it. I like it a lot. And I hope it's adopted this evening and sent to the City Council for further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other speakers out there, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back. I just have one thing to say. Can you I think that axe throwing might be hazardous to my husband. You get some older things for older people to do. Okay. It's like, we could have walker races.
Wheelchair races.
Okay, on a serious note. Yeah. Open 24 hours. So if there's no further discussion from Commissioner Steinbach has something to say.
Okay, I'll make the motion. We adopt the resolution. Correct amending, blah, 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 blah.
All those in favor?
Aye. We used to have the only slot car track within 7 miles when I was a kid, right where the lawnmower shop is. They used to come from downtown LA to race slot cars down there. Yeah. They were full every night of the week.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yay, team.
Yay, we're proactive.
Can I ask a question? Can I go back on our packet? I just want to make sure. What we were talking about was the zone text amendment for the Walnut Street, and initially in the agenda it was 4E. Around here it says 4B. I just want to make sure that attachment 1 for 4B, but. Oh, okay. So it was from the previous one.
Yeah, it was 4A.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure it wasn't.
4A and 4F.
All right.
Okay, now that we have all the public hearings out of the way, we'll move to scheduled matters. Communications regarding city council actions.
Let's see. Trying to recall what's gone before council, planning and enforcement wise. Can't think. This ordinance is now in effect, the
Exciting meetings
ADU
they
one. Besides that, I don't think there was anything in the last 2 meetings.
Okay. What about upcoming developments and businesses?
What was that? Sorry.
Upcoming developments, 5B?
Yes, okay, so there's been some openings, as you know, Target and Grocery Outlet coming this summer, and it's looking like Grocery Outlet's opening will be in June, for sure, and Target will be early July. I think, wait, let me double check on that early. Yeah, I believe it was early July. I'll say July for the record.
What?
No, the grocery outlet in June. Yeah.
The grocery outlet is the
June
13th.
I didn't know if that was advertised yet or not, but
They're
I have it on my calendar on the 13th.
flying it all
so.
over. They're doing media posts, all kinds of stuff.
I don't go with social media, shockingly, but.
Yeah, I got up this morning, I thought, I'm gonna go to the new market, and then I realized it was a month early.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yep, so June 13th, opening date. I don't have a time yet, unless you know of a time for the opening.
I don't know, they're doing interviews, you can apply for a job now, and just, let me know on there. Item 6A, staff announcements.
We have selected an intern to join us. We do miss Whitney, but we have an individual named Savannah Becca. We'll have her here and introduce her. She starts the day after Memorial Day.
Good.
We need some help around here.
And item 6B, planning commissioner items. Commissioner Steinbach, anything?
The biggest newsletter I've ever seen that came out, took me an hour and a half to read it. And all it did is give me more questions. So maybe you know, and if you don't, then I'll ask somebody else. But this transportation corridor, for whatever you want to call it, for bikes, e-bikes and roadworthy golf carts to get to, is it talking about downtown or just the park?
Sorry, I spoke over your last question.
So are you aware of this transportation corridor they're
Yes.
getting funding for?
So what I know is that it has been driven, no pun intended, by the South Bay COG and worked with all the individual cities. And they have some preliminary projects that they are implementing for kind of a web connection off of the beach to connect to it, of course. But they actually have really been working more closely with Public Works because it's right-of-way improvements,
Right.
of course. And the community development directors, they kind of been focusing just as a point of contact to Public Works to the right-of-way. So
It's just conceptual right now then, or?
I'd like to talk to Carla, or if you can want to contact Carla.
I'm just curious. If you know.
Yeah. So if you see the little turtle, I know that they're very proud of that logo, Low Speed Travel Network, and so that's what that is if you see it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if that was that and here too.
Yes, it would be.
That would get the bikes and
More targets.
golf carts. Well, it's just, the more you get people into downtown, the better. I mean, we did the original downtown. That was a long time ago when I was still up here, and it's kind of like, okay, we got to do more. So that's good. So no talk on someone's going to ask it anyway. No talk on what's going in CVS or where the bank was or the other bank was or Ace or 99-cent store, all these buildings that are going out, or businesses that are going out.
So what I do know is last I saw by the Ace Hardware, those were actually for rent online, being posted for rent. The CVS, we do have a building permit application for under review. We haven't sent it to county. I think it's under review for a retail store that's going to be, looks like they're full steam ahead on opening, but they're not approved yet. So, where else did you mention?
Yeah, it's getting concerning. I mean, even my wife now is like, wait a minute, Walgreens gone, CVS gone, and we understand why they're going, but it's like all at once, and it's getting concerning.
I know Amazon Pharmacy just opened up not long ago, so it's part of it. But yeah, because the Target will have for those who don't know, Target will have a CVS, and then we have the CVS up and down PCH.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Dever, anything? Commissioner Dever?
Yeah, I'm surprised that CVS lasted as long as it did. Seriously, I figured when they opened the new one, they were going to close the one on Echelon long time ago, but they both stayed there. So yeah, I'm surprised one of them stayed as long as it did. I just have items. First off was the drug and anti-gang walk was a tremendous success, as it usually is. And then the viewing of the new mural. Thank you, Brianna. And then the city council meeting, recognizing all of the students and everything was just really great. It was very heartwarming to see that kind of participation. It was really, really good. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Santos? Anything? Commissioner Camarada?
Well, I had several things, one of which Bob already talked about, this was the experience of a lot of the details, especially the man intensive. If it wasn't a grocery outlet, that would be a key parking lot. Second complaint, or second concern I have is the uptick in graffiti again. It is starting to really become rampant again up and down Lomita Boulevard. I don't know if anybody from the city actually drives around and looks for stuff, because I don't know that how many people call in and say, hey, we got this or that, but I drive around all day long and I can probably have half a dozen spots within 2 hours. So I don't know if who's our graffiti guy, what's his name?
So, yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if he goes around, drives around or looks at things or not, but somebody needs to get out and go drive around the city and look for all these graffiti areas. A lot of them are on private businesses, a lot of them are on walls, a lot of them are on spots that you probably don't see if you drive by, but because I'm so cognizant of the areas, because I'm out doing my work, I just see a lot of it. It's just really becoming a little discouraging. So that's the second item, but go ahead if you want to respond.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Actually, our code enforcement, we had our department meeting today, and it is an obnoxious amount of calls every day. Okay. Obviously, good that we're getting those calls so we can go address them. We do only have 2 code enforcement officers who have more cases. They don't have the downtime to be able to drive around because they're still working on those that are being reported or the building safety issues. So, that's up to city council. If they'd like to budget for more code enforcement, we can do that. But we do get complaints, and I would encourage you to email the code enforcement line, the list of addresses.
It's tough when I'm driving around an email. I mean, probably quicker for me to make a phone call.
Yeah, we welcome that.
I've done that in the past, and they've responded to some of them, but it's just gotten really out of hand.
Yes, it has, and it's going to continue to do so as schools get out.
Are there a lot of repetitive areas? A lot of repetitive areas?
Yes.
Gets cleaned up? Aren't there cameras in those areas where they're repetitive?
Surprisingly, not a lot of them. For example, the AT&T building, we are going to be working with them. First off, so there's 2 things at play here. We did the whole graffiti abatement campaign, where one of them is, okay, what can businesses do to prevent it in the best way possible? Put up a mural, put up vegetation, because the graffiti, the intent is for it to be seen. This is me. So if it's something that's now blocked or unable to be read, that's something businesses can do to hopefully prevent it. And of course, the anti-graffiti coding makes it easier to remove. The other side of it is the permissive removal that it's always been in the code, but it's never been used. So what we did about 6 months ago was adopted a fee to be able to implement the permissive removal process. So I think you've been working with code enforcement on that for liability purposes, but it is a form that any property owner in the city can have on file with the city that allows the city to abate the graffiti for them, and they pay a fee based on instances and things like that. So I don't know if you want to speak to that out of the status. You probably know better the status of it, but so yes, those are mechanisms that are coming into play. I think there was hope during the school, when it goes down a little bit during the school year, that it would start to go down. But now businesses are actually being proactive and coming to us saying, what can we do? So we are working with businesses on.
I got to tell you, some businesses need to pull their heads out of their, where, because half of the stuff is sitting on those buildings for 2-3 weeks. 7-Eleven right up the street's got a big spot on the side wall on Eshelman and Lomita. It's been there for 3 weeks. And there's a couple of them down by the tire shop over here in, just the other side of the auto shop on the corner, there's a couple of spots. You don't see it if you're not paying attention, but because I'm aware of it, it's in little spots that little spots here and there. There's a big blotch of it on the vacant lot where the storage is gonna go. It's all over the fence and the wall. That lot's starting to get a little out of hand again with the weeds and all the other stuff that's going over there. I mean, I could start picking stuff off left and right, but I think somebody from the city needs to get out and start really looking at the city, because it's starting to really look like the city is not taking care of itself.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering, I'm gonna work with Lena, who kind of oversees parking enforcement, because their job is to be out on the streets.
Well, if you wanna pay me, I'll
work
report
with
stuff
them.
left and right. I can tell you stuff every single day. I mean, I'm telling you, like the fence you put around the bank building over on Cypress and PCH, half the fence was down already because there wasn't a bar across the top, so they just pushed it down to get back into the lot again. I'm seeing stuff all day, every day, because I'm out. That's, my territory. The whole city is my territory, and it's discouraging, and it's moving more and more westward from coming up Lomita Boulevard, coming up PCH.
What I can also let you know is that we've been advised of the gang war.
Oh, there's gang wars all the time. I have properties we manage, we get tagged regularly. On Western and 262nd, 263rd, we get tagged on that wall all the time. And you know what? We get it off the wall within an hour. I have a painting contractor, he's out within an hour. We got tagged on another property on Pennsylvania and 241st. We got tagged on our wall, and the split face block across the wall for the mobile home park got tagged at the same time. We got ours off with an hour. Theirs was up there for 3 days. That's just 2 spots in the last week. Pardon me?
They think the city is supposed to.
I know, everybody thinks that somebody else is gonna take care of it, but it's just something that, you just start to wonder where the hammer is when it comes to something like this.
Yes, thank you. They pay it, and yeah.
The code offers a $500 reward.
So the other thing, and I have all the sympathy in the world for the homeless people because they don't have a lot of choices. But the 7-Eleven on PCH and was that Walnut or Cypress? Cypress and PCH. That homeless guy now has a permanent home right at the edge of the sidewalk and the parking lot. I took a picture of it today. He's got 3 carts, an umbrella, 2 chairs, and pillows. And I can share the picture with you after. But I thought one of the requirements we had was 7-Eleven to chase him off the property. Now, technically, he's on the sidewalk, he's on public property. But he's there every single day. And I can share the picture with you later on.
He moved there when we told 7-Eleven they had to move.
Yeah, I know exactly, because he was on the inside of the parking lot, sitting right there by the wall right there.
They moved him off their property.
Right,
Yeah.
well, they did. They moved him to the public sidewalk. Right, exactly.
They're gonna be somewhere.
I know, and I feel bad for everybody. I totally get it. That's another story. I'm not gonna start that, but I just meant that guy is now, a placeholder on that public sidewalk. And I don't know about you, but driving in a 7-Eleven, it's like, okay, should I buy beer first or go talk to him first? Because remember, they were supposed to not put the posters up on the windows? And the graffiti, and then the homeless was the 3 conditions we had for having the approval. So.
I would like to let you know also, because this is very real possibility here, is that our code does allow for anyone for the commission or staff to bring back a CUP or any entitlement that's been previously approved and reconsider if they're not abiding. We're using our code enforcement to the extent that we can, but if they're repeatedly, again,
Yeah, if they're not following the conditions.
The
right.
conditions
Well,
of
7-Eleven in this
approval.
case, they booted him off onto the sidewalk, and they only have 2 posters on the far west windows. I'll show you the picture after, just so you can see it. I'm not worried about the pictures, because you can clearly see into 7-Eleven, but, so.
Laura did a great, there's gonna be a handout circulating soon about maximum signage on stores too, so, 'cause that's a big issue, like you mentioned, can't see through the windows. So thank you for that. I'll speak with Lena, or, come up with alternatives too.
And I've talked to Will before about it, and he's, when I've talked to him, he says, I'll get somebody to go out and look at it. At least he's aware of it, but I don't know how fast they react to getting it off, or how, you know, what their process is to get in touch with either the property owner, or if it's just on a wall that doesn't belong to anybody. So, okay. That's all for now.
How about the Taco Bell?
Which one? I had to call today about the guy that set up the fruit stand with the umbrella on Eshelman and 250th today. Somebody's got to start bringing the hammer down on some of these things. I'm having a great day. I'm just telling you what I see when I drive around the city. And that's all I'm reporting. I'm not saying anything that's not true. Because any day, if you jump in the car with me, you'll see all this stuff and you'll say, wow.
I'm not denying that we saw these things, but it is.
Well, this has all been happening since our last couple, 6 months, but the graffiti is really getting out of hand. If you really start paying attention, you'll just start wondering,
Well,
hey.
you know, the Pendleton store lady was going in there, and she was talking about the homeless guy across the street.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
And she's looking around. I would hate to have her move just because.
It should be on because you're speaking. You want it to, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I would hate to have her move because it doesn't look good, and she sells, her stuff is not cheap, it's Pendleton stuff.
Right.
So, is that the one by the bank? Yeah. The whole thing?
Thanks for there. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
No,
yes, bank.
no, the other bank on the Drury side is there.
So, I mean, so it behooves us to do.
No, actually,
So I will say, I do want to mention that code enforcement, you know, we had the new officer who started about a month, or I guess maybe 2 months now ago. I do have to advocate for them that the things that they are taking care of, you aren't seeing because they're taken care of. They definitely take care of a lot, but we got some catch up on cases to do.
And
so
I will
we can-
commend John, he and his other code enforcement officer. When I called a couple different times, they jumped on it like right away and took care of a couple issues. So I have commended him. He and I talked before the meeting as well. So, but it's the graffiti that's really starting to look bad. I encourage you guys to drive out and see what's going on in the city, because you all make it think I'm just mad because of the graffiti.
I think what you're getting is that the assumption is that we're not calling and we're not asking. Look, here's the way I look at it. If we're going to ask staff to do something, it has to be something they can do. So staff can't do anything about homeless.
No.
It's not in the purview, and it's a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you can move a homeless person by whatever means necessary, and then come back tomorrow, and you can just do that. So that's a whole nother issue. Graffiti, I absolutely agree, but when I saw graffiti on Oak at the tile shop, they do remodeling there, and I thought, you have paint there, why aren't you doing it? And I called staff, and it disappeared because somebody made a call and it was gone. So it's incumbent upon us to make those calls, but I think we need to be mindful of what it is we're asking staff to do. And I'm going to say this only because I did this for 30 years, is code enforcement is not funded by anything other than the general fund. And we're understaffed on code enforcement. When they said we have another half of a person, it's like, oh my God, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Because now, if you have 1.5 code enforcement, do you have 1.5 or 2? You have 2 full, okay, so let me say this. There are 2 full code enforcement people, equivalent, for 1.9 square miles.
Right.
That's more than the city of Los Angeles has. And they have 275 code enforcement people. Most cities have maybe 1 or a half of 1 equivalent. They don't have 2. Right. And even at that, they're complaint-based. Their job is to handle the complaints that come in and whatever people at these half-round tables come up with. And so when we say, now we want you to go out and drive around the city and find graffiti, that day is now shot and can't reply to the complaints that are coming in every single day. Even when we're home in bed, they're coming in. So I'm really sensitive to saying they need to go out and drive around and do that. If you drive around and you see them, drop a dime. Drop a text, drop an email, make a call.
And I respect staff 100,000% because they do.
And I mean,
such a
I don't mean as your
fabulous job.
position, I mean as a citizen.
As
It's
a
our
citizen.
responsibility to ask our officials to do what we think they can do.
What they can, right. And
What they
staff,
can-
I don't mean staff to go out and drive around. I'm not putting that on.
Well, that's
them.
what I heard.
No, if I meant it that way, if I said it that way, that's not what I meant. What I mean is they need to be aware of what's happening and say, maybe they could take it up the ladder internally, as well as people calling it in and saying, hey, listen, I just noticed blah, blah, blah at X address.
So you go online and fill out the forms online for code enforcement.
I could do that, Mike, but I'm driving around. I don't have time to sit and do an online
Make
form.
record of it.
I have
Go
done
to
that.
your
I have
office
done
and
that.
do it.
I have done that. But I
Okay.
called Will. and
I've
he
done
did a
it
call.
too, and every time that I've done it, within 3 days, it's taken care of.
I'm just making the comment. I'm not expecting,
Well, you're going on a tirade.
well, that's because I'm kind of getting tired of it. That's why.
For a brush or a roller?
Jeez.
Thank you for your comments.
A
and
spray,
concerns.
a spray.
Dude, just, we're all in the same sandbox here, okay? Thank you. And I don't know if everybody had a chance to talk. I got confused.
I
do-
have no comments.
You have no. I get distracted easily. I do. First, I want to thank Brianna for when I saw the man selling items out of his car trunk or his trunk in the parking lot down there. After I talked to you, he was gone the next day, and I haven't seen him since. So that was great. No, it was there was a guy where the grocery outlet is going to open, and he set up a temporary store with 3 cars and his trunk's open, and people were buying stuff from him. I have no idea what they were buying, but anyway. So thank you for taking care of that. The graffiti is awful. But I will send you emails when I see it, because I do get out and about.
Yeah, and I don't ever seem like I'm hunting anything to Will, but now that he's a supervisor, I'm putting more on his email.
Maybe you could
Duties.
email his email, and I'll just email him
I will
directly.
do that, yes.
Or his phone number. I could
He
call
keeps me in the loop, though.
I'm out of place here, but I've got another question. There is a car that sits out here in this parking lot
I was getting to that.
with his solar panel.
I have the floor here. The guy in the parking lot, the homeless guy that
In our
lives
parking
there,
lot, right
in our
here?
parking lot.
That's public property. Yeah, county even property. Yeah, so it's even more so.
Call the county.
311.
And then the other thing that I wanted to say, and on more of a happy note, is I wanted to congratulate the new dad here. He's a brand new dad, has a new baby. So welcome to the world.
He loves that the meeting's going long.
Hey, Brianna, go like this. Show everybody. Show everybody.
Congratulations.
So, and if there's nothing else that anyone has for or against anything, we can adjourn this meeting until June 10th.
Hey.
10th.
I'm kidding.
The 10th is my anniversary, don't tell me.